Leah. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe DeFrance, and I'm part of the HCM sales team here with Oracle. I'll keep this brief, but I just want to thank you for joining today's webcast, where we'll be presenting PeopleSoft HR HelpDesk and how it operates in an HR shared services model. Leading today's presentation is Keegan Olson from Apex IT, who is an Oracle Platinum partner that specializes in PeopleSoft HR HelpDesk implementations. Please feel free to ask any questions via chat throughout the presentation, and as we've allocated 5 to 10 minutes at the end for Keegan to answer any questions coming in via chat. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Keegan.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for taking the time to attend our webinar today. Again, my name is Keegan Olson. I'm a Director of HR Solution Delivery at Apex IT. I also have with me today Brett Jesperson from Apex, who leads our workforce service delivery practice. So in today's webinar, I'll be talking about HR service delivery, shared services, HR help desk, and how they all kind of tie together. I'll spend about the first 15 minutes or so talking about that. And after that, I'll give you a demonstration of the newest HR help desk version 9.2, to show you some of the product's robust features. And I'll also talk about how we typically see the product used and implemented. So just to reiterate, we have reserved about the last 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A, depending on how long the demo goes. So you can go ahead and ask them through the chat in the WebEx. I'll do my best to answer them at the end of the session. So a little background of who we are at Apex IT. We're a Platinum implementation partner with Oracle. And being a Platinum partner, that's their highest level of partnership. And we've been working with and guiding organizations through their service delivery initiatives since 1997. We're involved in the majority of the HR help desk implementations with Oracle, approximately 80%. So we have a lot of good experience with shared services, HR help desk, and its application to improve service delivery. We also work with a wide range of other Oracle products, Oracle's latest CX suite of applications, Fusion, Eloqua right now, along with PeopleSoft, obviously CRM on Demand and Siebel. And we recently won some awards that we're pretty proud of. We're awarded Oracle's CRM Specialized Partner of the Year for our work in the CRM space, and we're also awarded the HCM Specialized Partner of the Year. That was an honorable mention for our work specifically with HR Help Desk. We're the first and the only partner to win that HCM award for work in HR Help Desk, so we're pretty excited about that. So since you're attending the webinar today, you're likely looking for ways to improve some aspect of your HR services. But really, what is service delivery? And simplistically, it's the application and the management of various HR services provided to the populations supported by HR. Populations like employees and retirees, termed employees, dependents, beneficiaries, applicants, vendors, and that's just some examples of those populations. HR organizations spend 80% of their time servicing those populations and fulfilling transactions. 80%. It's a huge, but it's a necessary time investment. Servicing employees is very important. And there's many models for providing support, which I'll explain briefly in the next slide. But specific to HR shared services, the chart in the bottom right of this slide shows some of the best practices for service delivery. One that utilized shared and centralized contact center with a tiered structure. This is a model that leveraged the lowest cost channels of service delivery. And you can see here that best practice is about 66% self-resolution and another 28% of inquiries resolved by tier 1 resources. So that's about 95% of the incoming issues being resolved by those lower cost resources, and then in the remaining 6% by those tier 2, tier 3 subject matter experts. Again, this is best practice representation of a pretty well established shared service environment, so don't be too alarmed by those numbers. So there's, like I mentioned, there's several service delivery models organizations use to service employees. The first I'll just go over is called the distributed model. In this model, employees interact almost exclusively with an on-premise HR generalist at their location for any and all of their HR-related needs. And the generalist answers most of their questions themselves, but in certain situations, they may need to reach out to HR groups like benefits or payroll or employee relations for additional help or satisfying requests that an employee might have. But that interaction lies with that generalist. And that's why you see a hierarchical structure next to that. The next model is more of a centralized model, and sometimes is perhaps a stepping stone to a fully centralized shared service contact center. This model, still leverages the generalist to interact with the employees, but the generalist will reach out specifically to the centralized HR group instead of reaching out to those individuals that they might know. So HR ops will resolve what they can, and then the HR ops group will then reach out to groups like benefit and payroll. So really what that does is it removes the interaction between the generalist and those individuals, the who you know part. And so the last model here on the bottom left is the centralized HR shared service contact center model. And this is the model that we're going to be talking specifically about today. And in this model, employees interact directly with the centralized HR contact center through a variety of lower cost channels, including instead of that direct interaction with the generalist. So you can see this is also where you see the tiers come into play. Tier 1 handles the initial intake and resolution of the majority of the inbound inquiries, along with Tier 0. And they escalate, and as needed, the Tier 1 can escalate issues to the Tier 2 groups like benefits and payroll, employee relations, etc., as they need. And this also is where HR HelpDesk really comes into play. It's the tool that enables that collaboration between groups and the ability to support multiple integrated channels. The employee perceives better service as they have the option to have multiple ways to have their questions answered 24/7 on their own or with the help of a person. So it just improves that employee experience. They can answer their own questions leveraging the exposed knowledge base, and that's really just Tier 0 resolution, and that should be the goal, as it's the lowest cost method of service delivery that an organization can have. And HR benefits because that's one less call to field, right? They answer their own question. That's one less call that's going to be coming into the call center. And they also benefit by being, utilizing a shared centralized application where they can quickly see an employee's case history and leverage the integrated knowledge base. From the management perspective, there's increased visibility into what's being reported, and they can use that for staffing purposes or maybe even to understand what employees need, what types of cases are they logging, and so that they can provide training and additional services where it may be lacking. And of course, this model also reduces costs because we often consolidate disparate systems into a single instance of HR HelpDesk, so there's savings there. But the real ROI really comes in when you're leveraging those lower cost resources for Tier 0 and Tier 1, Tier 0 channels and the Tier 1 resources, instead of relying on those more expensive senior level resources like HR generalists. So the benefit to generalists or senior staff is that they can focus more on strategic initiatives rather than administrative tasks. So there's a lot of perceived benefits. But I do want to point out too that keep in mind you don't have to be in this contact center model in order to leverage a tool like HR HelpDesk. We've got that slide that I showed with all the logos. There's lots of organizations using HR HelpDesk that aren't necessarily in that contact center model. They could be distributed, and it's been very successful in that as well. I think it's important to point that out because you can understand the versatility of the product. So this slide is a representation of the typical shared services model that we see. At the top, you see some of the constituents that are serviced: applicants, employees, vendors, etc. And all of the tiers to the right: Tier 0 at the top, Tier 1 right below that, Tier 2. And then on the left, you see a representation of cost. So as you progress down to the Tier 1, Tier 2, the cost of service increases. And the breakout of service, and then also on this, you see the breakout of the services that are provided at the different level. Tier 0 leverages tools like employee and manager self-service, the integrated knowledge base, FAQ libraries, and pages to log a case or ask a question to the HR organization. Or they can leverage it to check the status of an existing issue. So those are important pieces of Tier 0 resolution. Tier 1 support employees through the more traditional channels like phone and email and physical mail, fax, walk-up, and even live chat in some situations. So those are all pieces that are referencing that Tier 1 utilizes to service the employees. Tier 2 focuses more on case management and are often the recipient of those cases the Tier 1 person has already attempted to resolve, and they handle the more complex and sensitive issues that might come along. But ultimately, as I mentioned before, the goal of this is to provide as much service as possible through that Tier 0 and Tier 1 channels. Again, best practice is around 95% resolution between Tier 0 and Tier 1. Tier 2 will solve the remainder. An important question to ask, though, is how does your organization deliver service and how is it managed? Because all of these channels may not be necessarily applicable for your organization. It can be provided as many channels as you can see, and every organization we work with varies slightly from that respect. Some organizations have the who you know culture, and where employees call that same person, or they just don't have the technology available to their employee population to support a self-service channel. So the channels you support definitely must fall in line with the employee demographics that you have. But again, don't fret if you're not leveraging those channels. Organizations either simply lack those, or meaning they don't have a tool that can handle those, which is why you're looking at a tool like HR HelpDesk, or they just haven't fully grown into it. It most simply just allow the users, the employees, to use those traditional channels because it's what they're comfortable with. So I suspect some of you are nodding your heads, and that's why you're here today. I thought this was a little bit interesting. The service delivery improvements is the #3 initiative according to the 2013-2014 HR Systems Survey. Institutions are investing in improving the service by means of transitioning to shared services with an HR HelpDesk application because there's really proven benefits for doing so. Another interesting slide here, it kind of breaks that topic down a little bit. So when you have HR technologies in place to help employees out, studies show HR staff can service more employees. You can service on average, about 15% more employees when you have an HR organization that has those service-oriented application. So without technologies, about 204, but with that HR technologies, it bumps it up to about 235 per employee. So there's a significant difference there. If you look at the retail wholesale, the gray bar, if you have the employee and manager self-service only, you can see that they're at about 363 service. But when you, in addition to that manager self-service and other shared service tools that I mentioned, that bumps it up pretty significantly. So that's retail wholesale industry breakdown. But when you start talking about some other industries, healthcare, high-tech manufacturing, you start seeing a little bit of a decline there because the populations typically, the employee populations that they work with typically might not have access. They're on the floor, working machinery, or they're on the floor helping patients, so they don't have ready access to computers. So they just require more high touch type of interactions. And then at the bottom here, you see the distribution of how employees typically interact with the various components when you have all three of these pieces in place: 25% with self-service, 40% with manager self-service, but the most interact with the shared services organization. So how do you improve service delivery, and what have we seen work? Well, there's a variety of ways and methods to do this, and it takes time. Change management is probably one of the most critical pieces throughout, and it's not always easy, but the long-term benefits are very significant. Migrating to shared services environment is typically the first step because that requires organizational change and can lead to other efficiency improvements like reducing the cost based on the person who's working the cases and taking the calls. So moving towards the shared services is definitely one of the first transitional moves that we see. Optimizing, increase optimization, drive employees to that self-service for self-resolution, leverage Tier 1 to handle and resolve the bulk of the inquiries and requests, and engage Tier 2 or Tier 3 only when needed, but have them focus on those more strategic initiatives and work on the more complex issues. Increase the automation. Automation is a really easy way to improve efficiency. Processes that are labor intensive can look to be automated and leverage channel like self-service to streamline. There's cost savings in doing so. And with HR HelpDesk, you're going to be decreasing risk by using it. Tracking activities in a centralized, secure application decreases risk to the organization, will improve service. You know what each employee is reported, when it was reported, what was done, what was the outcome, who worked it, and when it was done. And that's really powerful information to have. And all that leads to improved reporting analytics. You get clear pictures of what's going on in the HR organization. You know what types of issues are going on, etc. So what is HR HelpDesk? I keep mentioning that just to level set with all of you. HR HelpDesk is a PeopleSoft application. It's a module within the PeopleSoft CRM suite The latest release is version 9.2, and Oracle's done a really nice job enhancing some important pieces of HR HelpDesk in this release. And it's integrated with PeopleSoft HCM and Oracle eBusiness Suite. And those integrations are pre-delivered, so you don't have to spend time developing them if you're thinking about an implementation. They're pre-delivered. It's the only application on the market that comes with those pre-delivered integrations. And I'll be showing you a few of those pieces of the tight integration shortly when I do this demonstration. So as you can see, it's not just one specific application. It's a robust, extensive suite of functionality supporting all those channels that I mentioned earlier, tied into a consistent case logging and resolution process. So on the left, you see the various intake channels, the web self-service, the web self-service, and chat and email, and also integration with the telephony. It can also integrate to other systems as needed through PeopleSoft's robust integration framework. Inbound requests typically start with that 360-degree view, which I'll show you, which is the holistic picture of the employee. It includes profile information that can be used for caller validation, and also shows a listing of their interactions with the HR organization. And it syncs over real-time data like benefit and dependents, last paycheck, absence data, if you have that. So at the center of all this functionality is the robust case management capabilities. And just to level set, cases represent an inquiry, a question, or a request. Other systems might call them tickets or service requests, things like that. It's all the same. Terms are synonymous. The case management portion of HelpDesk includes functionality that enables reps to quickly log a wide range in case types, search an integrated knowledge base for integrated how-to guides and policies, procedures, forms, and it also includes configurable workflow that can be used for business process management. Another nice feature of case management are the HR links that can take you directly into the HR system to make the necessary changes or perform additional research that you might have to. It happens within one click, and I'll be showing you that here in a few minutes. So integrated, and as I mentioned, in version 9.2, one of the big features that I'm going to be showing you today is this new HR Service Center. It's the employee-facing interface, and that's represented by that web service icon, self-service icon. It's a robust portal for employees to go to and to reference for their cases and search the knowledge base. So finally, after all these interactions are captured, then you obviously have the robust reporting that you can run to identify trends with the employee population, who's reporting what, how are your groups performing, how long is it taking to resolve issues, that sort of thing. So what groups typically use HR HelpDesk and how are they organized? And frankly, we're talking HR shared services here today, but frankly, it's really up to you. There's no required structure in HR HelpDesk. That's part of the implementation, is to define what groups that you'd like to use it and how you'd like them structured. HR HelpDesk works fantastic with shared services, but it also works, like I said, in those other models. So you see groups like benefits and payroll, compensation, communications, reporting analytics, HR admin. These are all groups that we've seen use and leverage HR HelpDesk in the past. You may also be wondering what types of cases can be logged in HR HelpDesk. Well, here's some examples that we've captured. Benefits tracks inquiries related to medical or dental coverages, life events, issues with enrollment, things like that. Whereas payroll tracks different case types pertinent to their area, inquiries like incorrect paychecks, direct deposit issues, garnishments, compensation tracks, requests for job evals, maybe some spot bonuses. Other groups like training can track requests for trainings or issues accessing training sites, things like that. And HR operations can typically track things to update data, update job data, update contact information. The point is that each of these groups are different in what they support and how they support the employees, but they're able to capture all of these interactions in a centralized place that can be reported on. ER is oftentimes a little bit different than some of these other groups, and I wanted to show you this because employee relations is a common user of HR HelpDesk. They use HelpDesk to keep track and document of issues like attendance issues, leave requests, requests for accommodation, reported discrimination, harassments, and even requests to work on workforce changes. So their needs are unique due to the sensitive nature, and they're able to use the system because of the secured features that are in the system. So we like to point out that HR Help Desk is HIPAA compliant. So there's and that's a big reason why groups like employee relations or leave administration can use the HR Help Desk, because there's features that are pre-built in and delivered out of the box that give it that HIPAA compliance, such as secured cases and the application security, 360 security that pulls over HR-related security. The point is that the system can be leveraged and has been leveraged by many institutions in many different industries to track a wide range of issues and questions that the organization might receive. So at this point, I'm going to stop talking about this, and I'd like to show you the actual system itself. So I'm just going to switch over here. Okay, I'm going to get signed in. All right, so just to level set, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to sign in. I signed in as myself because I have access to a lot of pieces of the application, but this first use case and what I'm going to demonstrate is the employee interface that's delivered with HR Help Desk 9.1. So what you're looking at here is the actual, I'm logged into HR Help Desk. Again, it's a PeopleSoft application, and I'm logged in as an employee. So this is what an employee would see. Just make this a little bit bigger here. This is what the employee would see if they sign into HR Help Desk. Okay, so this is not someone in the HR organization. This is an employee. So you'll see different sections here. This is completely redesigned in version 9.2. If you look at one of the earlier versions, 9.1, it's fundamentally different. The pages are just really nicely redesigned. And so let me talk about the components here. We have an FAQ list here, which is just basically kind of your standard FAQ. If I click on this, it'll take me to the FAQ page, and it'll highlight the FAQ that I put on. Now I just want to point out here that this is our demo environment. These are fairly generic solutions, but this is all open to your definition and part of your implementation. This information is it's basically an open canvas for you to fill out, but I wanted to show you some of the features functionality. So FAQs take you right to the page. You can have embedded links here. You can format these, include images, highlights, bullets, that sort of thing. So let me go back to the home page here. And so with the FAQ, you can have them broken down based on certain categories. You'll kind of see that throughout here. You have different shortcuts that you can expose to the employee. Again, this is all configurable. If you wanted to include, and this is actually the really nice piece of the integration between Help Desk and HR. If I click on this benefit summary, so me as an employee, I want to look at my benefits. Boom, there it is. Here's this. Here's my benefit summary. So what that actually did, it didn't look like it did a whole lot, but it's pretty significant. I clicked on that link, and this actually opened up our HR environment, and it signed me in, and it took me to that right page that I needed to go to. Okay, so that's pretty significant. You can include other sites here, like here's a site to Aetna that you might want to link to if it's a benefit provider. Again, all configurable. If I needed to update my personal information, again, just a click of a button, I'm right there. Signs me into the employee self-service page that I can edit and make changes, and then I can be done. So I've made my changes. I've clicked on some links. Now maybe I want to ask a question. I'll do a search here. One of the big enhancements that they made in version 9.2 is Oracle incorporated the use of the secure enterprise search. And so this is a really cool tool that kind of makes the searching a bit more user-friendly. So what I did there is I typed in benefits, and that is just it did a keyword search here. So it searched my knowledge base for that word benefits, and it pulls back a bunch of information. Solutions, you can see there's some known issues here. You can include cases, troubleshooting guides. So these are scripts that you could an employee could walk through to help answer questions. If I wanted to click on solutions here, this secure enterprise search has the capability of doing faceted searching. So I clicked on benefits. Maybe I'm interested in something that's in California. So I could click on California, and there it goes. It limited my search results based on that facet. So if I want to, and then if I wanted to actually look at the content of the solution, I simply click on it, and it opens it up here. Here's just a kind of a generic example of what you can do. You can have tables, bold. You could have, like I said, you could have images in here as well. I can read this information, and then right at the bottom here it says, did the solution resolve your issue? If this answered my question, we'd hope that they would check yes. And if they do, what happens is this content is, from a reporting standpoint and a system administration standpoint, the knowledge engineer can run reports and see how effective these solutions are. So how many times was it looked at? How many times did it answer a question? How many times did it not answer a question? You can get those metrics to understand what where your content is good, where it's lacking, where it needs to be updated, that sort of thing. Okay. So maybe in this situation I couldn't answer my own question, or maybe it's something specific. I went from the home page, I did my search, and now I can create a case here. So you can have this set up such that it would force the employee to search the knowledge base first to try and answer their question first, try and do that tier 0 resolution, and then they can create a case if they can't find the answer. So it's a pretty simple, another enhancement that they made here is to make this kind of like a wizard, if you will. Figures out who you want to create the case for. For most employees, it's just they're only going to be allowed to create the case for themselves. But if I happen to be a manager, I could add a case for a direct report. I click on this, and I can just change this. I've got a few direct reports in our system. I'm just going to create it for myself here. And then I can choose how I want to be contacted, through phone or email. Just defaults to email here. I hit next, and I just specify what I want to do. Add a depend. Okay, so I just put a summary and add my details as I need. I hit next, and you can, again, this is configurable, so you can choose what fields that you want to hide. Oftentimes we actually hide this priority field because you know what, everything's going to be critical. So I could categorize this. We keep this very very generic, very simple for the employee, and then I go ahead and save my case. So now as an employee, I've looked in the knowledge base. I've tried to answer my question. I maybe have answered a couple of my own questions, but then I created a case, and now I get this confirmation message. I hit OK here, and it takes me to the case page. So this is what a view that you would see in if you were to open up a case. I'll just go back here to this main landing page. Another section here that you see is my recent cases. So I just submitted this, and as soon as I submit it, it's in the database. The other thing here is that case will also be on someone's queue now. So it's an integrated self-service channel. I submit it, and it just got routed to someone for servicing. Okay, someone or a group for servicing. The other piece that I didn't mention here is this known issues. This is another section that's nice to have and can help reduce call volume when in the situation where there's an event that might be affecting a broad population of employees. So these are known issues that they can refer to. So if I was to come back and look at one of these cases, I submitted this one a little while ago today. Deductions were incorrect. I can see that I can see who it's assigned to. I can see what the priority is. I can change my contact information about that. I can still search through the knowledge base if I wanted to. I could also see what solutions have been applied, and I can choose whether or not that answered my question or not, or resolved my issue. And I can also see the notes and attachments. So I'll talk a little bit more about notes. And you can see that at 128, myself, I adjusted your paycheck. Your paycheck was last adjusted. Maybe a little bit of a bad example. That would be the agent name on here. But you can see the interaction history for that. And then you can also look at interested parties, people that might be interested in this particular issue. For example, I added Rachel Martin as my HR representative. And those are just people that want to be in the know about that particular issue. Okay, so this is the HR Service Center. Very nice, well redesigned page, and we've seen this implemented now, and people are pretty excited about it. Customers are pretty excited about it. So I'm going to switch focus now and show you the agent capability. So what I showed you there was employee facing, and now I'm going to show you what you can see from an agent perspective. So there's a couple, what you're looking at here are some dashboards that we put together in our system, and these are all, most of these are pre-delivered, but just to show you some of the capabilities of the system, we have a quick links here. So as an agent, these are the pages that I like to work with. Oftentimes these are actually more than what we have. We have the work list, cases, solutions, reports that I might want to look at. And then right in the middle here is this Agent My Cases page. This is a very important piece of the application because it shows you what cases that you have. By default, it shows me open cases, but I can also look at cases that are unassigned in my group. And right at the top here, it shows the case that I just submitted. So right away, it's an integrated system. So me as an agent, as soon as that employee submits that case, it's available for me to start working. So add a dependent is at the top of the list there. And then as an agent, I can open it up and then start working it. I'm not going to work this one quite yet because I want to finish talking about this dashboard here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and you can kind of get some more ideas. You can see, do pie charts here. I can see what are the channels. This is cases by source. So 29.41% came in from direct call. Another one, a bunch came through self-service, that sort of thing. So you can do nice pie charts. And you also have these drillable bar graphs in 9.2 and their latest tools release that I can click on this. If I want to see all those cases that are in this cases backlog, I can see these are the cases that are in there, and I can drill in and take a look at those as needed. So this is updated essentially real time. Every time I land on this page, it's updated. And this leverages, if you're familiar with PeopleSoft, this leverages the pagelet wizard. So it's very easy to create these new pagelets to pull information that you might want to see on here, cases by type, cases by group. So this is an agent dashboard. You can have separated dashboards here. This is a manager dashboard that we put together. So I can look at cases by agent. How many cases does each person have? Again, these are kind of generic, and they can be built out much more robust. But just to show you the functionality, cases by agent, newly created solutions if I'm a knowledge manager. Open cases by day. How many cases are we adding per day? Cases that are assigned to different groups. So these are the benefits. We have one critical priority case that we need to take a look at. So these are drillable graphs, gives you line of sight on what's going on, cases that are exceeding SLA. All of this information is at your fingertips here right on the home page. So it's a nice reporting capability. Okay. So getting back to our use case, I've submitted a case in self-service. I want to open it and start working it. I'm actually going to look at a different case. I'll go ahead and open that. That's fine. Unassigned cases on my provider group. So top of the list is the one that I just submitted. Go ahead and open it. I can review what I put there. I didn't put a whole lot of information, but first thing that I do is I would assign it to myself. And actually, maybe I'll just assign it to someone else just for the sake of showing you how it can be assigned. So assigning a case to a specific person is that simple. If I was working this case and I needed to assign it to a different group, it's as simple as if I wanted to assign this to the benefits group, benefits administration, change that, hit save, and right away it's on the benefits group. It's that easy to collaborate and assign cases in the system. So just to show you some features of this, this is a case that was already submitted through self-service. The employee submitted the case, and we captured the employee, we captured the information that they provided. We can categorize the type of case. We can assign it to the right group. We can apply a status. This is something that I'm researching right now. I'll change the status, and right away when I make that change, if the employee goes back to the self-service pages, they know that I'm working on this case. I can set a target close date. Again, I can categorize this a certain way, assign a particular category, and right away look at that. There's the source where it came. So you can track metrics on, like that pie chart that I showed you, where the case is coming from. Okay. So integrated with this you can leverage these, maybe this adding a dependent, I need to go to the benefits data. I'm just going to open up this page here. And again, myself as an agent, I can go right into HR, make the changes, do the changes that I need to, close the window, and then add a note that says, hey, I made that change. Adjusted. I enrolled you in benefits. Thanks. Okay, so I'm signed in as the same person. Now with notes, there's a couple ways that you can do notes. I can choose to publish it to that person through self-service. I'm going to go ahead and publish this one. But there's also notes that note visibility that can be internal itself. So I could say this guy is crazy, and I can keep that internal. Obviously, as a HR group, you would never do that, but just for the sake of argument there, I'll go ahead and do that. So there's a note that says this guy is crazy, but when I go back as an employee, which I'll do right now, again, putting my employee hat on, I'll go back to this HR Service Center. And now I'm back as the employee. I can see that the status is updated to open research. If I click on that case, it'll open it up, and my Wi-Fi might be a little bit slow here. Try reloading this here. Okay, well, I'll just move on. So if I go back there, it'll show the cases, the notes that were applicable for that employee, and those that were visible to that person. So let me just go back to the home page here, and I'll open that case. Just open up another case here. So just to describe some other features of this, of the product, got about 10 more minutes here. So opening the case, it takes you to this case summary. So just some other features here. We can categorize it. We can track notes. We have capabilities of adding tasks to the case, such that if you had certain things that needed to be done for this case, you could track tasks. It's got a robust case history. Let's see if there's any on this one here. If I make changes, basically it says it was changed from this value to that value. You can track assignments. This is a new feature for 9.1 to show you how long a particular person or a particular group has been assigned to the case. And then you have the option to relate cases, to print cases, and so that's a pretty good overview. So that use case, what I did there is I went to the self-service, I created the case, I worked the case from the agent perspective, and then I answered the question, and then in self-service, the employee can either choose to close the case, or the agent can close the case by searching the knowledge base. I guess one thing I didn't show you here is on the agent-facing case, the same knowledge base is integrated here as well. So I can do keyword searches. If I did a search for benefits, similar to what I did in the self-service page, I would get the same results. This search can be contextual in that it could search for show me solutions that are linked to the location or the business unit that's specific to that employee, the location or the role that person is in. Okay. You have the option to expose here FAQ libraries, frequently used solutions. So based on the type of case that it is, it could show you a list of cases, or you can choose to have an agent add a solution there. That's typically not necessarily recommended, but the functionality is there. So a couple other things. So that was a self-service channel. I want to just show you quickly the 360-degree view and show you how that functions. So what the 360-degree view, the way that works is for those channels like a walk-up or a phone call. The 360-degree view is really the starting point for an interaction that's not coming through self-service. So if I do a search for REZ, I can do partial name searches. There happens to only be one person with REZ in there. It takes me right to their 360, and this is a very useful page in that it gives you some summary information about that person that's synced over real time from the PeopleSoft HR system. So all this information that you see here is pulled over. Well, the majority is pulled from HR. This summary information and all this HR information that I'll talk about in just a minute here. So we have this profile information that we can use for validation purposes, and it also shows you the activities. These are the cases. So I'm looking at Reza. These are all cases pertaining to her. she does a lot of verifying her benefits information. She happens to be one of the persons that we use for demoing purposes. But further down, you get down to the job data that's synced, all of this information, the pay data, benefit enrollments that this person might have. If she had some dependents beneficiaries, they would show up here. Enrollments that she has, and then also any direct reports that she has as a manager. So I can easily, if the manager calls in, I can easily add a case for their direct report and have it linked appropriately. So if she has an existing case that she's calling about, hi, I'm calling about case 220687, I can just go ahead and click on that and open it up like I did with that other case. But if it was a net new case, I can click add a HR help desk case, and it basically gives me almost blank case. There's some default values here. You see that I'm signed in as Keegan. It's assigning it to me. But what you do for the first step is to check out these quick codes here. Quick codes are very handy, quick win, get the case log type of situation. So if I say make a benefits change here, you see what happens there is it assigned it to the right group, potentially to the right person. It sets the categorization values for me. It assigns the right priority, and it also fills out the summary so it can be a starting point. So these are things that can help save time. So I pick the quick code, I hit save, it assigned it to the right group, I'm done. I can move on to the next one. It's on George DeAngelis's work list now. Okay, so this is the case page. There's a lot more to this than I'm having time to show, but I'm just going to move on to a couple other areas that I wanted to highlight. So the dashboard is again really the place where we drive. This is where you find your work, but there's a couple other places where you can find information in the system. Specifically, there's the work list, my work list, and this is a nice place. It's kind of like an inbox for you. You can see cases that you have currently assigned to you, and you can also see other if there's email integration that we had set up. There would be emails that would show up here, so it lets you see who the employee is, basically get a nice list of cases, and from here you can mass reassign cases to the proper group or the proper person. Okay, and I can also check my group work list. So if a manager is checking what's on our group work list here, I'm part of multiple groups here. I'm on payroll maybe. I put my payroll hat on. I can select these multiple cases and assign it to a person that's in my group. Okay, so nice feature here. And just do a time check. Okay. At this point, I'm actually going to transition back to out of the system. We can answer questions here in a few minutes. I've got a couple more slides that I want to cover, and then and if there's other questions, we can answer those at the right time here. Okay. So I went through a couple scenarios here. I'm going to skip over these. So when we talk about implementation, that's kind of the next topic that I wanted to talk about here. Now that you've seen the product, just touch briefly about the implementations. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we have a great amount of implementation experience, and we've been involved in hundreds of implementations. And we do that, like I said, we do the vast majority of HR help desk implementations. But the implementations range significantly depending on the scope and many other factors. But we like to stress that the software implementation is not just about software. It's really a combination of people, those that are involved and affected by the software process, how the software is leveraged, and technology, and that's the software itself. And this chart is pretty interesting on the right-hand side. It shows the top issues reported during implementations, and the top 2/3 of the results are people and process related. Technology is typically not why implementations fail. Things like robust change management, strategy, training, and appropriate staffing and executive support are really what makes projects successful, and we like to focus on that. Sorry, I was on the wrong slide. So a couple things to think about as you start transitioning to shared services or implementing a centralized help desk. What are your goals and objectives for the systems? For HR, where are you now in your HR structure? What populations do you want to support? What channels do you want to support? What groups should use the system, and when should they use it? Is this going to be a phased approach? How is help desk incorporated into your business processes, and what systems can we consolidate? All of these are questions you'll need to consider as you work through the implementation of the product like this. So at Apex, we're big on phasing in technology. And the primary reason around this is really change management. How much change can your institution handle at one time? And we really recommend phasing in functionality in as time progresses. As you can see with HelpDesk, the features functionality is pretty extensive, and I really only scratched the surface in what it could do. So phasing in functionality limits the change so end users can move efficiently and easily and accept those changes. So the first phase that we see typically is heavy on change management and is typically limited to a few groups, perhaps a tier 1 group and a few tier 2 groups. And it always includes case management and possibly some basic self-service capabilities and limited knowledge content. Knowledge content is one of the harder parts of the project. So defining and building one of a robust knowledge base may seem easy, but in reality it is probably one of the harder pieces of the implementation. But the benefits of that knowledge base, as I kind of highlighted in the beginning, is that tier 0 resolution. If you have a great knowledge base that people can find answers, you're going to see a reduced call volume, and so that you have less. It's a great channel to support. So phase 1 also typically includes some basic reporting and possibly a data conversion from a legacy system if that's required. Interestingly, most of the time there actually isn't a legacy system. We do a lot of net new implementations. But we're firm believers in starting simple and growing over time, and it's proven over and over to be successful, especially for those that don't have a centralized system today. And then so the second phase typically is like a 3 to 6 month time frame after the initial go live. And this is where you start adding some of the more robust features, such as maybe a telephony integration, expanded reporting, maybe email integration if that's a requirement. And then adding more robust content, perhaps even working on that employee-facing content. Get used to the tool. The idea for putting that into a phase tool is to get used to the tool, as an HR organization first, and then you can, get to that optimal tier 0 end state resolution. So the third phase, perhaps 6 to 12 months later after the initial rollout, should introduce further efficiency improvements, more integration, more self-service capabilities, more knowledge, more groups using the system, more analytical type of reports. And 6 to 12 months is really when you start getting those analytics out of the system, because you're able to see trends and see where your high volume time frames are. I listed 3 phases just for example's sake. Oftentimes organizations are perfectly happy with after 1 phase or maybe 2, and others have 10 phases. It just all kind of depends on what you want to do as an organization. So I wanted to talk briefly, just a couple more slides here, and we'll take some questions. I want to talk briefly about a few other best practices we've learned over the years. Again, we've been doing this a long time, so we've got some good lessons learned. When starting out any HR service delivery project, it's so important to plan ahead. Determine the scope, figure out the phases, determine who's available to help, basic project planning. Start that change management early, develop that strategy, and make sure that it's executed. We've seen organizations set up that nice change management plan, but then they fail to execute, and it just defeats the purpose. So develop your to-be business processes, and those processes should be incorporating how HR HelpDesk would be utilized in them. So then walk through your knowledge base strategy. Who will manage it? Where does the information come from? How is it managed going forward? You're definitely going to have, that's a very important role if you're talking about a shared services contact center and leveraging self-service, because they're going to be in charge of gathering that content from those SMEs and incorporating that into the system in a consistent and easy to use format. And also, what analytics are you looking for? So that reporting analysis, what testing needs to be completed, and who needs to be trained. These are all things that you need to be thinking about. And then also, try and use the delivered capabilities of the system. It's a system that can add significant value out of the box. Most of our clients, I'd say probably about 95%, do very, very little customization to the delivered system. I tried to highlight earlier that it can be used for tracking all kinds of different issues out of the box, and it's important, and that's important because that reduces the overall implementation costs. So at this point, I'm at the end of the deck. I'd like to open it up for any questions that you might have.